I am the first memory. Most believe the forest kills with tooth and claw. But the Elderbranch is more patient than a wolf. It kills with doubt. It kills with a single slick stone and a mist that swallows the sun. Kaelin has left the path of men. Now she must walk a path that does not exist for the faint of heart. Out here, your eyes will lie to you, and the ground will betray you. Today, she learns that survival isn't just about strength. It's about what you remember when the water starts to rise. If you are lost in the fog, return to the beginning here. You cannot cross the stones until you have faced the fire. For the rest of you, don't look down. This is Chapter 6, The Shifting Fenstones.
The neutral road of dark earth had served her well, but every path had to end. It led Kaelin out from the heavy canopy of the deep woods and left her standing at the edge of a world entirely different from the one she had known. Before her lay a wide, misty fen. Its borders were choked with towering reeds that whispered even when the air was perfectly still. Kaelin shivered as the damp air seeped into her clothes, carrying the heavy scent of algae and wet stone. A metallic tang, like the taste of rain, coated her tongue. She paused to listen, realizing the humming song of the forest had faded. In its place was a silence so deep it felt like the held breath of a watchful spirit. The path ended abruptly at the water's edge. Kaelin searched the fog for a way forward and found only a line of dark, glistening stones, snaking out into the mist. She approached the bank cautiously, her boots sinking into the marshy ground. Despair washed over her. This was not a road, it was a trap. The sensible part of her mind, the part born and bred in Edgehaven, began to scream. The stones were too far apart. The moss was as slick as grease. The fog would turn her around in 3 steps. One slip and she would be gone. The image of plunging into the cold depths while her satchel dragged her under was so vivid that she gasped. It felt like a cruel joke played by the forest on any traveler desperate enough to try it. The dangers of the woods had been abstract until now, ghosts of starvation and hidden predators. This was physical. This was a direct challenge she could see and touch. Fear was no longer a ghost. It was a wall. Rowan, however, seemed to see no wall at all. He trotted to the bank without hesitation, his paws making soft, sucking sounds in the mud. He sniffed the air, his ears twitching as he assessed the path ahead. With a fluid, confident motion, he gathered his strength and leaped, landing with perfect balance on the first stone. He took another easy hop to the second. From his perch, he turned back to look at Kaelin, his head cocked to one side. His tail gave a short, impatient wag. "Well, are you coming?" His simple trust was a profound challenge to her complex human fear. He did not see an impossible crossing. He saw the way forward. His intelligent gaze seemed to ask why she hesitated. Kaelin stood at the edge, a battle raging in her chest. The cold, logical voice of Edgehaven whispered of foolishness. Turn back. Find another way. Trust only what your eyes can see. But then she felt the worn weight of the wooden spiral against her skin. She remembered the forest whispering her name. She saw Rowan waiting for her, his confidence an undeniable truth. The choice was terrifying. Would she trust the fear she knew and remain a prisoner on this bank forever? Or would she trust the magic she was only just beginning to understand? Her companion, her heritage, and her own strange heart were all telling her to take the first step. The mist swirled around the bank. a living, breathing entity that seemed to mock her hesitation. From somewhere just ahead, Rowan let out an impatient whine. Kaelin's heart hammered against her ribs in a frantic drumbeat of terror. Every instinct, honed by a lifetime of caution, screamed at her to retreat. But there was no retreat. Behind her lay the village that had cast her out, and the forest that offered no other path. There was no back. There was only this. Kaelin made her choice. Her fingers closed around the smooth wood of her mother's necklace, seeking a sliver of courage. The world of sight is a world of fear, she thought. Trust something else. She pushed aside the noise of Edgehaven out of her mind and focused on two tangible truths: the humming warmth against her skin and the memory of Rowan's whine cutting through the fog. One was a legacy, the other was a friend. Both were real, and both were telling her to go forward. Taking a ragged breath that tasted of cold, wet air and damp earth, Kaelin lifted her foot. For a weightless, terrifying moment, she was suspended between the solid ground she knew and the impossible path she had to trust. Her boot came down. She braced for a slick slide into the cold, but her leather sole hit the stone with a solid thud. It held. She opened her eyes, her breath catching. The world had shrunk to a tiny island of dark, mossy stone in a sea of swirling gray. The bank was already a ghostly memory. All sound was muffled by the thick fog, creating a dreamlike silence broken only by the soft splash of water and the frantic beat of her own heart. She was alone, suspended in the gray. From the gloom ahead came the scratch of claws on stone. That was her only guide now. Sound and the steady vibration of the necklace. Kaelin took another step. Her nerves were electric. The second stone was slicker than the first. She flailed her arms for a moment to keep her balance, while her satchel shifted dangerously on her shoulder. The world was reduced to the immediate. She felt the yielding moss under her thin boots and the constant, clammy caress of the fog on her skin. She learned to move without seeing, trusting that the next stone would appear when she reached for it. Step, balance, breathe. The rhythm became a meditation, a mantra against the fear gnawing at her focus. Confidence grew, and with it came danger. Her movements became a fraction too quick. Her focus slipped. She leaped for a stone that looked closer than it was, and her boot landed on the very edge. Her foot slipped. A cry of terror was ripped from her throat as her body tipped sideways. The world tilted. Cold, murky water rushed over her boot, shockingly icy against her skin. For a horrifying second, she was falling. The dark water rose to claim her. Just as her balance failed completely, the thick mist gathered around her waist. It became momentarily solid. It was not a hand, but a quiet, unyielding pressure, as if the fog itself had decided she was not allowed to fall. The sensation vanished in an instant. So quick she almost thought she had imagined it. Instinct took over. Kaelin threw her weight in the opposite direction. Her free hand slapped onto the rough, slimy surface of the rock. Her fingers scrabbled for purchase, nails scraping against stone. With a desperate heave, she hauled herself back from the brink and collapsed into a trembling, gasping heap. As she lay there, cheek pressed to the slick stone, her gaze fell on the moss beneath her fingers. It was not the green slime of the other stones. This was a star-patterned growth with tiny, silvery edges. A memory surfaced, clear and sharp. Her father had once pointed to a similar patch on a river rock. "See this, little sprout? That's surefoot moss. It only grows on the oldest, most stable granite. Wherever you see that, the stone will not move." And knowledge was a solid, real thing from a life that felt a world away. Her heart was a frantic drum. The cold from her soaked leg was already seeping into her bones. The near fall had shattered her composure, and the terror returned, thick and suffocating, She felt she couldn't do it. It was impossible. But then, through the fog, she heard a soft whine. Rowan was waiting. He hadn't run ahead. The thought of his loyalty was a tiny spark in the darkness. She couldn't fail him. Pushing herself up on trembling arms, Kaelin took a shuddering breath. The fear remained, but a new, stubborn anger burned alongside it. "I will not be beaten by a line of wet stones," she vowed. Slowly, she found her footing. Her movements were careful now, stripped of all confidence but filled with a grim determination. One step, then another. The far bank appeared out of the mist with a suddenness that made her gasp. A solid, beautiful wall of green. With a final, lunging leap, her boot left the treacherous stone and landed on solid ground. She stumbled forward and collapsed onto the mossy bank, pressing her palms and her cheek against the earth. It was blessedly solid. It did not shift. It did not threaten to betray her. Her legs trembled too much to hold her weight, but here on the ground, it didn't matter. She had made it. She had passed her first test.
The fen tried to claim her, but the wood remembered her, and perhaps the mist chose to let her live. Kaelin is learning that the forest is not just a place of danger, but a place of ancient, impartial mercy. But the stones were only the beginning. Deeper in, the trees have longer memories, and the shadows are growing hungry for a voice. If you want to survive the next crossing, you must be prepared. At the foundation of this record, I have left the way to find your guardian and a collector pack. Claim them now, before the deeper hush takes hold. In our final meeting of this chronicle, the forest finally speaks. I remain the first memory. Watch the shadows, for they are watching you.